What's going on, guys? Welcome in. It is the Chief Zone podcast. I am Farzine Vasugian, and football season is back. Yes, football season is back. I can't believe it. We're finally here. We are finally doing game breakdowns. We are finally talking about a real Chiefs game. We're gonna do a breakdown. I was going through my breakdown notes and everything that I was gonna do that I have, and I just forgot what it was like to do a game breakdown. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. I was like, oh, I forgot. I mentioned the refs, the network, the announcers, the line, the over under, all those things. So kind of forgot what that was like for the longest time, but very excited nonetheless to be back with you guys. And I'm very excited to do another season of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I brought this podcast back last year. Thought I was done with it forever, but I thought, you know what? Maybe we got to do it one more time. And I'm glad we brought it back because we did a lot of great things with the podcast last year. We've already been doing great things with it this year. And now at the upcoming season, I'm excited to get the season going with you guys. So appreciate you guys being part of the ride, being part of this great journey. And hey, win or lose, we're always going to have fun talking about this Chiefs team on the podcast, on social media, wherever it is. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you are following and subscribed on Facebook and on YouTube. That is where we do our podcast live. If you want to catch us live, I try to do it every Wednesday, 7 o'clock, our game previews, that is. Obviously, this week, much different because it is I don't want to call it a short week, but it feels like a short week. Coming off a holiday weekend, which, by the way, hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend, enjoyed drinks, barbecue, all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you're in Kansas City, you always enjoy that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, make sure you are subscribed and following on Facebook and on YouTube, especially the YouTube page, or the YouTube channel, I should call it, because we're starting to put a lot more video content out there. So it would really mean a lot if you guys would subscribe to the Chiefs Zone on YouTube. Make sure you're following on there. And by the way, for those of you who are watching live, as I promised, forgot to do this last podcast. You guys can call in. You guys can call into the podcast. I just commented with the link on Facebook and YouTube. So don't be shy. Call in and let me know your thoughts. We'll try to do more live streams like on other platforms as well. Definitely looking to do it on other places. Just got to figure out the ins and outs of doing it on those websites as well. So we'll get that started pretty soon. So be on the lookout for all of that. All right, enough of all of that. Let's get started. We will get into the Chiefs Ravens shortly. Hope you guys all had an opportunity to listen to the last podcast. Did a lot of the reactions to some of the roster changes that took place. The biggest one, of course, Samaje Perine coming in, and it looks like Samaje Perine is going to be getting a lot more playing time, maybe even early on in the season, in the early goings of the 2024 season, than maybe originally anticipated or expected, because the Chiefs did confirm earlier this week that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he is going to be on the or he has been placed on the non-football injury related reserve list. This is all stemming back to his PTSD that's been ongoing and kind of came back up again. And listen, obviously the Chiefs, they're pretty good about that kind of thing, just taking care of their players in that manner right there. If you guys don't know the story with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's really not my story to share, and I don't know all the details, but it involves having to defend himself and a friend, and unfortunately there were some casualties involved in that moment there. You just kind of realize with things like this, you're an NFL player like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's won a championship in high school and college and in the NFL, albeit his NFL career so far has not been the most successful, but still, you're making millions of dollars in the NFL. So at the end of the day, it's not all bad, but people deal with this kind of stuff on a daily basis. So certainly understand his decision needing to step away, and this is why you do have a reserve list, kind of like IR in a way. He has to miss the first 4 games. If you're placed on this kind of a list, you're going to be placed on the IR list, and you're going to miss 4 games. So that's the bad news, but hopefully he'll be able to take that time to recover, reflect, do all the things that he needs to do, meet with anyone that can help him through in the next few days, because certainly that always comes first before football. So in the meantime, that is why some IGP Ryan is going to be playing maybe more than expected. How much more? We don't know exactly. With Hollywood Brown's absence, how much will the Chiefs utilize the running game in Thursday's game against the Ravens? I'm very curious to see. We'll get into it more in the game breakdown. But to me, it's like, how do the Chiefs approach this new offense? Because this is going to be a new offense. This is not going to be anything like last year. Rashee Rice has a year under his belt, so he's definitely going to be more improved, obviously working on the things that he needed to work on this offseason, doing a lot of the training, also trying to learn from his mistakes in the offseason. That's very important as well. But then you have a guy like Xavier Worthy who can take the top off of defense. What is he going to look like in his NFL debut? Especially, again, I hate to say it, but I got to say it, Hollywood Brown not being available for this game, which is unfortunate because it was the game that he definitely wanted to play in going up against his former team. How is this offense going to look? Because I think, in my opinion, the Chiefs are going to use that 11 personnel more than anything else for not just Thursday's game, but really the entire season. So who is that other receiver going to be? Because you have Rice, you have Worthy. Is it going to be Justin Watson? Are we going to see Juju Smith-Schuster a little more than expected? How much will Mecole Hardman get in that kind of actions? Is Sky Moore going to play maybe more than we anticipate? Those kinds of questions I definitely have in Thursday's game with the offense. But I still think you have what it takes to get the job done in Thursday's game with the offense that you have. This is a good Ravens defense. And yes, the Ravens went through a lot of turnover this offseason. I think by end of April, they had already lost 15 players of free agents. Now, some of them were backups like Tyler Huntley, which isn't like the biggest deal in the world if your quarterback's Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, two-time MVP. But it definitely matters when you lose guys like Patrick Queen, when you lose some other key pieces there that we'll go over. Rock Ya-Sin. We'll dive into that later on in our game breakdown, but this is going to be a Chiefs offense that a lot of people are going to keep their eye on, even if you're not a Chiefs fan, because what story? Yes, you did win the Super Bowl, but you had a lot of issues on offense. It wasn't the most ideal way to win a Super Bowl. So how is this Chiefs team going to look Thursday night with a new offense, with Rashee Rice getting that experience under his belt and Xavier Worthy coming in, adding to that speed that the Chiefs have been missing for a while now? How does Travis Kelce look in this style of offense? I know the discussion about retirement, people keep thinking he's going to retire. And I'll be honest, I thought last year he was going to be done. People thought that, he and Taylor would ride off into the sunset with all of their money. And, we'd never see Travis on a gridiron ever again. But Travis Kelce, every time he gets asked these questions, today, like he did the Rich Eisen show, and he also met with the media today, he brushed off every single retirement question, and he alluded to something that Julian Edelman said, former Patriots Super Bowl MVP Julian Edelman. Edelman was a guest on the New Heights podcast, and Edelman, Kelce referred to his quote that, he started getting tired of practice, got to the point where he didn't feel like he could go full. Basically, he was dreading those kinds of things. And that's when Edelman knew it was time to step away. Kelce said the complete opposite. He doesn't dread practice. He's not tired of the process. Every year, whenever he meets with the media in training camp, he says, "Oh, I love training camp." Who says they love training camp? I mean, maybe he says that and doesn't want to show weakness. That's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, this kind of thing with Travis Kelce, he gets asked about this a lot. And again, a lot of people felt like even without the Taylor Swift scene, if you will, a lot of people felt like there was a chance last year could have been his final year because of maybe the injuries that were adding up to him. He did an interview. I think it was he's done so many interviews and magazine covers. It's hard to keep track of all of them. I want to say it was Vanity Fair, where, and if I'm wrong, please forgive me, but I think it was the one where, he talked about how the injuries are adding up, the amount of surgeries he's had over his career, those are adding up. So it seemed like for a moment he was hinting at retirement, but now he's kind of reverted back to, nope, no indication. That is not even a thought for him, basically, is what he's trying to give off there. Now, listen, if he really was considering retirement or thought maybe this could be his last year, would he say it? Probably not. Um, you shouldn't really even admit those things if you are. I know Andy Reid has made it very clear because Andy Reid gets asked every year, "Oh, is this your last year? Is this your last year?" And Andy Reid told the media last year, and he said this many other times, so it's not like that was the only occasion, but he said something to the effect of how if you ever think about wanting to step away or retire, then you should step away. Um, Now, at Andy's age in his 60s, has he considered? I mean, you would have to think he has, but maybe he hasn't given it as much thought as you might think. And I think that's kind of what Travis Kelce was trying to, that the message he was trying to send to the media is that he's nowhere near retirement and he wants to keep playing. He's been giving that message for a while, except for that one point last year where he talked about, and listen, last year was a rough year for everyone on offense. The drops, Kelce missed the season opener, which, he never want to do, and losing by a point probably hurt him even more. Having to watch his team from the sidelines, especially struggle the way they did with the drops and everything. Chris Jones also not being there. Well, he was there, but not on the field, which is still kind of funny to me. But we've gone over that before. I just feel like in general with this Chiefs team, and the reason I'm bringing up Travis Kelce, I don't think there's pressure on Travis Kelce this year. There's not. There was last year because who was a reliable guy midway through last season? Nobody was really reliable. Rashee Rice was still kind of learning the offense and was kind of trying to overcome the drops and the fumbles that he had, which he still had all the way through, but his production at least got better. But, at the halfway point last year, I don't know if we could really say there was truly anyone that was stepping up on offense outside of Travis Kelce, maybe Isaiah Pacheco. But we all know the Chiefs are not a run-first team, so that's not something that's heavily ideal. Travis Kelce did say today that it's not ideal for him to have some of the workload off of him. He still wants the workload. He still wants to continue going at the same pace he's been going his entire career. Especially, since he's been an All-Pro since 2016, I think. 2013, obviously, he didn't play the whole year. 2014, started to get his feet wet. 2015 started to get more and more recognition. And then 2016 is when he really started to have his first great year, I should say, in the NFL. And it's just been up since then. He's broke the NFL record for receiving yards in a single season, not once, but twice. I mean, that's how great Travis Kelce's been in his NFL career. And by the way, people say, oh, it's just Mahomes throwing to Kelce. No, I mean, Kelce shared the field with Tyreek Hill for a few years. And then you look at now in Kansas City. I mean, last year, not the best year, but even the year before, Kelce's always been the top guy since Tyreek Hill's left. But Mahomes does a great job of distributing the football. I mean, why do you think Kadarius Toney had so many drops? Because Mahomes kept throwing the ball to him. If that wasn't the case, then Kadarius Toney would not have as many drops this year. I love the narrative that's out there by some people, not everyone, by some people, that Mahomes only throws to Kelce. Well, if that's the case, then why aren't defenses picking up on that? I still remember when Tyreek Hill was traded away, a lot of people thought the strategy would be easy for defenses, and it would be to just double team Travis Kelce, because who else do you have? Well, MVS was not bad. Actually, he was good his first year with the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster really got better up until his concussion that year. And then when he came back, tried to pick up from where he left off and was a key part of this offense. Kadarius Toney joined the team midseason and picked up the offense pretty quickly that year. I know it went downhill after that season, after that punt return in the Super Bowl, that is, but still, the Chiefs still had guys who stepped up in that season, especially in the AFC title game. MVS stepping up the way he did when Toney got hurt, Hardman got hurt, Juju got hurt against the Bengals. MVS stepped up big in that one. Marcus Kemp, who had not been targeted the entire season, got a first down reception in that game. So Mahomes, the idea that Mahomes only has one guy that he throws to could not be more false. I mean, there's a lot that Mahomes does with this offense and takes advantage of all the guys that he has to work with. And look, even right now, when Hollywood comes back, I know he's not back right now, so it's kind of weird to put him in the picture, but I'm going to do it anyway, because this is an offense that definitely missed having that speed last year. I mean, they had it with MVS and Toney, but unfortunately it didn't mean much because they were guilty of some of those key drops there, if we're being honest. But now you have better speed with Hollywood Brown, with Xavier Worthy, who can take the top off of defense. McCole Hardman can do that as well, but we haven't seen a lot of that from McCole. But now McCole is going to be part of your depth rather than a guy who's going to be expected to do a lot as one of the key receivers on your team. So this is an offense where, when you put guys like Sky Moore and McCole Hardman as part of your depth, and you have Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and Hollywood Brown when he comes back as key receivers for your offense, man, that's going to really bode well for Patrick Mahomes this season. I have a lot of high expectations from Mahomes. I know he's the betting favorite to win the MVP this year. I certainly would place that bet. But I just feel like in general, whether it's Kelsey, whether it's Rice, Worthy, Hollywood when he comes back, Pacheco in the backfield, some expectations for Samaje Perine. Carson Steele had a lot of hype in the preseason. Can he carry that over to the regular season? I mean, there are a lot of reasons to feel good about this Chiefs offense. Now, are there some question marks? Of course, specifically with the two offensive tackles. Jawan Taylor, he had some good moments as a pass blocker. Obviously, the whole penalty thing was weird. How, officials didn't care about him in week 1, but suddenly it was a thing after week 1 because he did the same thing in the preseason last year. But again, it wasn't a thing until week 1 when it was made a big deal of. Like even the Lions coaches, they weren't lashing out at the refs for any of that. They had no issues with what was going on there. But the announcer made a big deal about it, and it just became a thing. But he's got to improve as a pass blocker for sure. He had some good moments, but he also had some really bad moments. Donovan Smith was not really good last year either. He was just a tiny step above Orlando Brown, which, is not saying much. When you have a franchise quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, you need far better. Orlando Brown, unfortunately, was a liability in Kansas City and was the same thing last year in Cincinnati. So what did the Chiefs do? They brought in Donovan Smith. Well, like I said, he wasn't much better. So what do? They let him walk, and they go out there and get Kingsley Suamataia, and they have a lot of high expectations from him. He's going to get tested in this game, in his NFL debut. Both Xavier Worthy and Kingsley Suamataia, I mean, they've got a very interesting first test for their NFL debuts against a very good Baltimore defense, which we'll go into later and break that down. But man, I'm excited for the offense overall. It's going to be better than last year. I mean, listen, if you can win the Super Bowl with what you did last year, what are you going to do this year? I think the defense takes a little bit of a step back, but you don't need the defense to be exactly the same as last year. I think this Chiefs offense is going to be far more improved in 2024 than they were in 2023. And I do want to check one thing that I didn't look up before the podcast. I should have. What were the Chiefs ranked in total offense? Miami was number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the Chiefs were 9th in total offense. They were still a top 10 offense. We kind of forget about that sometimes. So even with the struggles Kansas City had offensively speaking, and I know it was not the best, they were outside of the top 10 in points scored, they still found a way to do it, and they're going to be much better. Even when it came to the passing game, what were the Chiefs ranked? They were 6th, right behind Minnesota. So again, even with all of the issues the Chiefs had on offense last year, they did a far better job, statistically speaking, than a lot of people thought. If Tony, and I hate to play the what if game, but let's just go there for a moment. If Tony does catch that pass in Detroit, or in Kansas City against Detroit, I should say, if MVS catches that deep pass, he had another one in Cincinnati that he dropped that should have gone for a touchdown. If you have those drops that get nullified, obviously Mahomes' numbers are much better, and the offense in total much better as well. You also had that touchdown that was taken away against Buffalo, not a drop per se, but another, simple mishap, a mental mistake there that should not have ever happened. That did happen. So those kinds of moments right there where the Chiefs kind of hurt themselves. Let me just say this, and I don't want to take credit away from teams when they win, because look, I don't care if you play a team and they drop 10 passes and that plays a role in the other team winning. When you win a game, you win the game. it doesn't matter if the opposing team constantly hurts themselves or if they had players missing due to injuries or for whatever reason, suspension, whatever it could be. When you win a game, you win a game. I don't like when I remember when the Chiefs and Eagles were playing in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, a lot of people were trying to diminish Philadelphia's success by saying, oh, well, they didn't play anyone. Well, they're in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I know the NFC title game, Brock Purdy went out and all of that stuff, but you don't just get to walk to the Super Bowl with ease. I mean, there's just no way. Yeah, sure. Again, the NFC title game, that's an exception, but I think, discrediting what that team accomplished up to that point is silly to me. Winning in the National Football League is not easy. I mean, are there bad teams that certainly make it a little easier? Sure, of course, but winning in general is just not easy at all. And when you look at what the Chiefs did last year, they had all the issues on offense, and they won 11 games in the regular season. I know a lot of people, I keep mentioning this, I know a lot of people did not see the Week 18 game, especially if you're outside of Kansas City or even in Kansas City. Probably not a lot of people had interest in that game. But Spiro Deeds and Adam Archuleta, who announced that game, they were talking about the Chiefs all year and how they have all these issues. And this is the worst team in the Patrick Mahomes era, but they won 11 football games. They have the number 3 seed. Any team out there that wins 11 football games, that's a pretty damn good season, even with an extra game added in now that we have 17 games in the regular season. 11 wins. I mean, there's nothing easy about winning 11 football games. If I'm not mistaken, before last year, the Chiefs have won 12 games every year with Mahomes. So now, you had one game, and technically, I guess they didn't win the 11th game with Mahomes because Mahomes didn't play in that game. But in general, you won 11 games that season. So just want to get that out there because I know someone's going to fact check in the comments. But this is just a team in general. The offense is going to be much better. I think Travis Kelce, there's going to be pressure off him. Does the workload also come off him too? I don't know. I mean, he says he doesn't want that to be the case. Look, it's hard to distribute the football to your top tier players consistently. Distributing the football, not a difficult thing for Mahomes to do at all. But, in other words, 3 1,000-yard receivers, that's a tall order. Obviously, the Chiefs had multiple seasons where both Tyreek and Kelce had 1,000 receiving yards. Before that, I think the last time the Chiefs had a pair of 1,000-yard receivers was Dwayne Bowe and Tony Gonzalez, and that was during a 2-win season. Now, they didn't really have anyone else behind those two guys, which is why it was so easy for those guys to get the 1,000 yards. But still, I mean, that's one of the nice bright spots at least some fans can enjoy during a down year like that. But when you look at this Chiefs team right now, who was the last NFL team to have 3 1,000-yard receivers on offense? And I'll give you a hint. The coordinator was a former Chiefs head coach. It was Todd Haley. Right before Todd Haley accepted the job to come to Kansas City, the offense that he had in Arizona, and this is a huge reason why he got the job in Kansas City, is because they had 3 1,000-yard receivers, Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, and Steve Breston, who eventually did come to Kansas City, followed Todd Haley to Kansas City for one season. So when you look at that offense that Arizona had with Kurt Warner throwing the football, and again, Larry Fitzgerald, one of the best wide receivers we've seen in this game, especially in the last 2 decades. Anquan Bolden, a very good number 2 receiver. Steve Breston, a slot receiver who did very well. How much does this Chiefs offense resemble that Arizona offense? I think there are some similarities there. I really do. And again, that was by Kurt Warner. And I think another good comparison would be Greatest Show on Turf that Kurt Warner had when he was with the Rams with that style of offense there. Because again, with all the speed you have, again, Andy Reid's your head coach. He's obviously going to be creative as hell. And I think this is the year where you're going to see even more creativity. You have to, especially with the speed you have this year. This is going to be a really good season for the Chiefs. A lot of people are comparing this Chiefs team to the 2018 Chiefs team, where the Chiefs had the 3rd highest scoring output in NFL history. The speed that the Chiefs have now is very similar to what you had back then. Who was part of the Legion of Zoom? It was Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, and McCole Hardman. Who do you have this time around? Well, you have a lot of guys, even more guys with speed. You have Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Rashi Rice, not necessarily known for his speed, but he can definitely turn on the Jets when he needs to. You have McCole Hardman still on this team, very fast, can do a lot of damage to a defense whenever he does things right. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's also known for his speed. This is pretty good. This is a pretty good offense. So yeah, there are a lot of expectations, and that's why the anticipation is so high for Thursday, because I think as Chiefs fans, even though we have a lot of expectations, we need that reassurance on Thursday that this offense is going to look good. And I think even without Hollywood Brown for a short amount of time, hopefully this is the only game he misses, this is still a team that has what it takes to come through and win on Thursday. Certainly have those expectations. All right, before we get into the Chiefs and Ravens breakdown, I do want to touch on this story here involving DirecTV and Disney. How many of you guys have DirecTV? And yeah, Steven, that's a good point. Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, also part of that as well. Part of the depth, of course. How many of you guys have DirecTV? And if you guys have DirecTV, my follow-up question is, how did you guys try to catch any of the action over the weekend when it came to football, because college football specifically? Because I don't watch tennis, but I guess during the U.S. Open at some point, DirecTV cut off all of the signals on all of their Disney channels. So ESPN, ESPN2, ABC was still available for me. But yeah, I mean, you had a lot of people who were frustrated because they did not have a chance to finish watching the U.S. Open. There were also people who wanted to watch some college football over the weekend, some of the good college football action, and that was unavailable to them. And now it is Tuesday, September the 3rd, and we're kind of in an interesting spot right now because football season just started up, and you have College Game Day, which is a very popular program for ESPN. Obviously, there are a lot of college football games also on all of the ESPN networks. You also have ESPN's NFL coverage, which is a huge deal. Then you have Monday Night Football, which is exclusively on ESPN. And if you do not have ESPN, and I can't remember if it's only for when your local team's playing or if they've done it regardless, whether it's local market or not. I believe last year they started doing games on ABC, so you can watch Monday Night Football on either ESPN or on ABC over the air TV. That's been taken away now. ABC, ESPN, the Disney Channel, all these other channels, the History Channel, all these channels that are owned by Disney, not available right now. Yeah, I'm seeing some of the responses here about DirecTV and all these things here. Look, people always feel the need to pick sides. DirecTV, according to reports, they're not happy with what ESPN has to offer, and they want ESPN to be a little more flexible and not demand so much money, and also allow more for the consumer to be able to take in from the Disney networks. And then you have Disney, who feels like that DirecTV is trying to diminish the product. Again, these are according to reports. So, but you have people who hear that information and then they choose to take a side. Oh, DirecTV, you need to get your shit together. No, Disney needs to get their shit together. Ladies and gentlemen, both sides need to get their shit together. Look, I'm not here to pick sides. I'm not here to tell you who you should side with. I know if you go on ESPN, if you have DirecTV, it'll tell you that hey, we have a conflict with ESPN. Contracts have expired. If you want this channel, contact them. And then you have ESPN doing the exact same thing, saying, hey, look, DirecTV is choosing not to air us. If you have an issue with that, if you don't like it, talk to them about it. So I'm not sure, at the end of the day, who's really at fault, who's being unreasonable when it comes to these contract negotiations. All I know is it's the first week of September, and we all know that DirecTV and ESPN, or Disney, I should say, picked the absolute worst time to have this dispute because college football just started up. And now you've got the NFL coming very soon. And Monday Night Football is a huge part of ESPN's NFL coverage. So the NFL, I mean, they're definitely worried about this because they know their television ratings absolutely will go down if DirecTV customers are unable to watch Monday Night Football. Listen, I don't want anything bad to happen. I will say this, though. A part of me wants this dispute to essentially take over all of week one because I want to know what the Monday Night Football ratings will be. I want to know what the ratings are going to look like without DirecTV customers because it's going to be a very interesting number. I mean, it is definitely going to drop. So, yeah, and again, I know some of you guys listening have DirecTV, but there's a big part of me that's very, very, very curious as to what the ratings are going to look like. I know the NFL does not want to find out. Like, I know the NFL makes a big deal out of, merchandise and stadium tickets, but they make a huge deal out of television ratings. Who beats the NFL in ratings? Even that 1 year in 2016 when people were boycotting the NFL, who was beating the NFL in ratings that year? All these, anytime, the NFL has messages about race in the end zones. I'm not watching football anymore. Okay, well, who's beating the NFL in ratings? Because you have people who threaten to not watch the NFL anymore, yet for whatever reason, NFL ratings did not really go down by that much in 2016. I mean, if anything, they've always remained on top. Thursday Night Football is still on Prime. Sunday Night Football is still on NBC. There are some rumblings that they could move it to Peacock following the Thursday Night Football model, but would not shock me if ESPN was ever trying to fight for having Monday Night Football on ESPN Plus exclusively. But anyway, my whole point is with this whole DirecTV Disney, man, I'm not here to take sides. I think they both need to get it together. I don't know, again, the specifics of the negotiations. None of us really do. Who's being unreasonable, who's being cheap, who's wanting what. We don't really know all of that stuff. But man, ultimately, you gotta understand this is like the worst time to have this issue. I mean, if ESPN was unavailable in, I don't know, after the Super Bowl, like in mid-February, it'd still be a big deal because you have College Game Day going on. You have college basketball. I know ESPN does not air any of the men's games for the tournament, but they had a lot of the women's games, and it was a huge deal last year because of Caitlin Clark. We don't know what that's going to look like this year. And I know I'm going down a few rabbit holes here, but my point is these networks, these cable companies, I mean, they've got to really get it together because you're losing money the last few days just from this dispute already. You want to lose more? Well, okay, let's find out. You really want to play the tough guy? No one wants to budge. People want to hurt their customers at the end of the day. Okay, let's see it. The NFL is not going to like this. And I'm personally, not that I want any kind of dispute, but I'm actually very curious to know what the ratings are going to look like for Monday Night Football. And if neither side is willing to budge or renegotiate, we might actually see what the ratings will look like. And that's not something Roger Goodell wants. Football season is here now, and if you guys want to check out the Chiefs, the Jayhawks, the Wildcats, the Tigers, or any other NFL or college football team, you can do so by getting your tickets through SeatGeek. I like SeatGeek because they keep you very honest. Anytime they have their ticket prices listed, they'll put a green dot next to ticket prices that are worth spending money on, and if resellers have ticket prices listed too high, they'll put a red dot next to those ticket prices, so definitely avoid those tickets. And by the way, for those of you that are looking for a little extra bonus here, I have a promo code you can use if you're a first-time customer of SeatGeek. Enter my promo code FARZINE at checkout and you will save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and at checkout, new customers can put in my promo code FARZINE and save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Do I think they'll fix it? I mean, you eventually, yes. It's not a matter of if, Jeff, it's a matter of when. When the better question would be, when will they fix it? And that's the thing, we don't really know because, these companies always try to strong arm the other, and no one wants to budge. Kimberly says, I worked at Cox Communications for 12 years. These wars happen every year. Here's the worst part. And I don't know what your role was specifically, Kimberly, but it's like, if you're the person for Cox Communications or DirecTV or Spectrum, whatever, and you're there to take calls from customers, they end up yelling at whoever answers the phone. It's like, listen, this person that you're yelling at is not responsible for this whole situation here. And that's, I think, what gets annoying is then you have employees who have nothing to do with any of this, and they end up falling in the line of fire when they're dealing with angry customers. It's the people that are doing the actual negotiating, they're not the ones who hear from the customers. It's the other people. By the way, I tried to print my rundown for this podcast, and for whatever reason, it didn't print before the game. It just decided to print now. How convenient is that? Right on time for the segment, too. I didn't even print on the other computer, but finally came out. So give me 2 seconds here. Great. This right here, for whatever reason, it decided to print right before the game breakdown, which is perfect because that's actually when I really needed this the most. Which is perfect timing because that is exactly where we are going to next. We are breaking down the game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. I can't believe I'm saying that, man. I can't believe we're finally here talking. It's just been a weird offseason for the Chiefs. We've already gone over that. Don't need to do that in detail now, but we're finally here. We're finally doing one of these game breakdowns. And I could not be more happy. I know you guys are ecstatic as well. We kind of went over earlier just all the anticipation for this football game, and we're going to finally get it. Sean Hockley, he is going to be the referee for this game. So Chiefs haters, go ahead and pull out those conspiracy theory hats because that's who you guys are going to be blaming after this one. It's going to be on NBC. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth calling the game. The betting favorites here belongs to the Chiefs at -3.5, or I'm sorry, -3. The over-under for this one is 46.5 points here. One quick note about this game. Patrick Mahomes needs just 84 yards to surpass Lenny Dawson as the all-time passing leader in Chiefs history. How cool is that? In his 7th season as the starting quarterback of the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes is going to become the all-time passing yards leader in Chiefs history. That is, that is definitely quite an accomplishment. This is just adding on to all of the things that Patrick Mahomes has done a lot of great things when it comes to single season records, first year as a starter record, all of that stuff. But now, he's starting to leave some footprints in NFL history and Chiefs history. Trying to become the all-time passing yards leader in Chiefs history. And, eventually he's going to get to that point where he's going to, depending on how long he plays, we'll see. But he's eventually going to get to that point where he's going to have some of the most yards, touchdowns, all that stuff in NFL history. Obviously a long ways away, but he'll get there as long as he stays healthy. Here's a great comparison. It's funny because Troy Aikman was talking about, comparing because somebody, I think it was The Athletic, they said that Mahomes already has 33% of Troy Aikman's touchdown passes, and Troy Aikman responded by saying, how about you get 33% of my Super Bowl wins? And now Patrick Mahomes has already the same amount of Super Bowl wins as Troy Aikman. He already has more than Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers still playing, but Mahomes has already surpassed him. I mean, what Mahomes has done in 6 seasons as a starter, I mean, a lot of guys would wish they could do, even the guys who were at the top of their game. So it's definitely interesting to see what Patrick Mahomes has done in his career. And this is just another one. He's going to soon become the all-time passing yards leader in Chiefs history. All right, let's get into the game now. Ravens head coach John Harbaugh, he has been there forever. 17th season coming up, only finished below 500 twice with the Baltimore Ravens. Offensive coordinator Todd Monken, he is in his 2nd season as the offensive coordinator of the Ravens. And as you guys all remember, the Ravens had the #1 rushing offense in the league last year with Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Melvin Gordon. Gus Edwards no longer on the team. Justice Hill is still a part of the team. But they went out there and they got Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, who was with the Tennessee Titans for a while and now making his way over to Baltimore. I don't know what's with this narrative that Derrick Henry's washed up and he's not as good as he used to be. He was second in the NFL in rushing yards behind Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Derrick Henry still has it. I know the AFC Championship game gets discussed a lot when it comes to one of Derrick Henry's poorest performances against the Chiefs, where they held him to like 40 or 50, maybe 60 yards. It's funny because I remember College Game Day was at KU a couple days later, and a KU fan had a sign that said Derrick Henry had, X amount of yards again in the AFC Championship game, which I thought was pretty funny. But listen, I've always been a huge Derrick Henry fan. And by the way, that contract he signed for, what was it? 2 years, 16 million? Not 16, not 60, 16, 1-6 in the teens. I mean, I would have not had an issue at all if the Chiefs were to offer, I don't know, $8.5 million a year in 2 years. Like, come join the best offense in the NFL and add in maybe the most talented running back in NFL history. I know running backs today have no chance at breaking, Emmitt Smith's record or any of the other running back greats out there. But man, I think if Derrick Henry did play in that era of football, I think he would have had a great shot to have a lot of rushing records in NFL history, but neither here nor there. Derrick Henry going to join the best rushing offense in the NFL, so the Chiefs absolutely need to be on their A game in this one with their defense in the against the run specifically. Willie Gay, a big part of your run-stopping defense. He has moved on to New Orleans, but you do have Leo Chenal, who is in his third year in the NFL. And I think in the flashes we've seen from Chenal, he's looked pretty good. Now, unfortunately, in the AFC title game, he should have had Lamar Jackson for an easy sack, but Lamar Jackson able to escape that and found a wide open Zay Flowers in the end zone, who was being guarded by Nick Bolton, of all people. So to me, I just, I wasn't quite sure what the Chiefs defense would look like. But man, I feel pretty good about a lot of things, especially Leo Chenal. I'm very excited to see Leo Chenal now that he's going to get a lot more playing time with Willie Gay moving on to New Orleans. So hopefully he's going to be a big part of that run stopping defense here, because they're going to need that with Lamar Jackson, the triple threat option that he provides for Baltimore, and he has done for a few years now. And now you add Derrick Henry to that mix. This is going to be a big test for the Chiefs defense as well. Their tight ends, both very good. They had Mark Andrews, who suffered an injury. Same game Andrews got hurt was the same game Joe Burrow got hurt on that Thursday night football game. So kind of a weird game that night in terms of injuries that occurred for both teams. But Isaiah Likely did really well for the Ravens up until Mark Andrews came back. And Andrews did come back in the AFC Championship game, but could not get anything going in that game. You look at Zay Flowers, he had a phenomenal rookie season. Unfortunately, it was overshadowed by his AFC Championship game fumble, taunting L'Jarius Sneed, who has now moved on to Tennessee. And then you dive into the end zone, and Sneed, with one of the most clutch plays in Chiefs history, maybe even NFL history, right there, pops the football loose. And that probably saved the Chiefs in that football game right there. So Zay Flowers, who again was really good as a rookie, 858 yards, leading the team in receiving yards, and also had 5 touchdowns. Pretty good season for him. But can he shake that off and put that behind him against the same team that it all happened against? You look at Rashad Bateman, first round pick from 2021. They have 2 first round picks starting at wide receiver, one from last year and the other from 2021. Rashad Bateman's had a very quiet NFL career so far. In the 3 years he's played, he has just over 1,100 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns, which is, certainly underwhelming for a first-round pick. Missed 15 games the last 2 years, so been dealing with injuries. Missed 5 games last year, and then missed 10 the year before. So this is someone that's definitely trying to stay healthy, just to give himself an opportunity to be able to shine more. So your key receivers that you got to keep an eye on if you're the Chiefs defense, Zay Flowers, and then the tight ends, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. When you look at that Ravens offensive line, they've got some good players there. They got Tyler Linderbaum, who is a first-round pick from 2022, a guy they really like. They also have that left tackle Ronnie Staley, first round pick from 2016. So he's been sticking around for quite some time. But they've got some question marks as well, especially on the right side. Let's start with the right guard, Daniel Failili, I think is how you say his name. He was a 4th round pick from 2 years ago, and he hasn't really played a whole lot in his NFL career. And the Chiefs would absolutely love to have Chris Jones line up against him, because that is where Chris Jones will absolutely win that battle. And I think you're going to have the center, Linderbaum, who's going to try to help out Failili and try to double team Chris Jones. Another interesting matchup here, more interesting for the Chiefs side, is their right tackle, Roger Rosengarten. He is a rookie right tackle that was taken in the 2nd round from Washington. So former Husky, going up against George Karlaftis. So George Karlaftis is going to be going up against a rookie in this game. Man, you got to feel like George Karlaftis is the favorite to win that matchup right there. So hopefully George Karlaftis can get the best of him. I think he will. Here's one thing to keep in mind about this offensive line battle against the Chiefs defensive line. Lamar Jackson, in the second half of last season, he was never sacked more than 3 times until the AFC title game. Every game where he was sacked, it was either 3 times or less. But the only team in the second half of the 2023 season to get to Lamar Jackson 4 times, that's right, the Kansas City Chiefs. That's who it was. That's how good this defense is. Now, unfortunately, you don't have Charles Omenihu, who was one of those guys who got to Lamar Jackson and also popped a football loose. Chiefs were not able to cash in on that, but still, that's one of the players who will not be part of your defense. So maybe that's a big reason why they went and got Cam Thomas, who is expected to be used. What about FAU? We've talked about him recently and how he needs to step up, and that Cam Thomas trade certainly sends a message if you're FAU. So you've got to step up, and this is a perfect game to do it, especially with going up against a rookie right tackle whenever he gets an opportunity to rotate into the game with Karlaftis. So the key guys here that Lamar Jackson is going to be working with in terms of pass catchers, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, and Mark Andrews. I mean, that is what the Chiefs. And by the way, when you go back to that AFC Championship game last year, one of the things the Chiefs did a great job of was winning the one-on-one battles in coverage defensively. And Lamar Jackson had no one to throw to. And then he wanted to run, and that option was closed because the Chiefs defense had that lockdown. That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, listen, I know there are a lot of opinions out there about Lamar Jackson, and fine, I get it. I certainly have my opinions about Lamar Jackson, but there's a reason why this guy's won MVP twice. Defenses have a very, very difficult time trying to contain him, and when they focus on him too much, that is when he finds a wide open guy like Mark Andrews, like Isaiah Likely, those tight ends. Alex kind of reminds me of when Alex Smith would always go to Travis Kelce and Demetrius Harris, those 2 tight ends. That's kind of how Lamar Jackson, I'm not saying Lamar Jackson and Alex Smith are the same, but I'm saying the way that they utilize tight ends, very similar. So I think if you're the Chiefs, you just gotta do what you did in the AFC title game. Again, much easier said than done. But if anyone can make that happen 2 games in a row against Lamar, it would certainly be Spags. And look, we've discussed this in nauseam many times. Who runs nickel and dime packages more than any other defense in the NFL? The Chiefs. There's a reason why Spags does it. Spags loves to blitz with those defensive backs. And you have a really good defensive back that you drafted, and Jaden Hicks was a hard hitter, and he looked really good in the preseason. Tyrann Mathieu gave Brett Veach a vote of approval of that pick right there, which is always good when a player of Tyrann Mathieu's stature certainly approves. But man, I think ultimately this is a Chiefs defense that needs to do what they did one more time, the exact same thing to Lamar Jackson, and they can have a really good game. And you just got to hope that your offense at the end of the day is going to pull together and play much better than last season. And there's a chance that the Chiefs can put up more than 17 points, which is what they scored against the Ravens last year. Could not score in the second half. Hardly could get anything going in the second half against the Ravens. Patrick Queen, I mentioned, he has moved on to Pittsburgh. The Ravens lost a lot of players in free agency. I mentioned Patrick Queen being one of them. Geno Stone to Cincinnati, Rock Ya-Sin to San Francisco, Jadeveon Clowney to Carolina. I know Jadeveon Clowney did not live up to the hype, but he's been, pretty exceptional as a defensive end, a pass rusher in the NFL. But man, just the amount of guys that they've lost. Now they still have a lot of really good players on that defense right there. You look at Namadi Matabuke, the all-pro who's going to be going up against Joe Thuney in this football game. Michael Pierce is going to be going up against Creed Humphrey. They also have Broderick Washington, not as good, but he'll be facing Trey Smith, and I think Trey easily wins that battle. The other two, Pierce versus Creed Humphrey, and then Matabuke versus Joe Thuney. Those are going to be the more interesting battles at the line of scrimmage there. The offensive tackles, how are those two going to look? Juwan Taylor trying to be better this year. He's going to have his hands full with Kyle Van Noy. And then you have Kingsley Suamataia, who's going to be dealing with Odafe Owe, I think is how you say his name. So that's going to be an interesting first test for Suamataia in his NFL debut. I mentioned Roquan Smith, great linebacker. However, Roquan Smith has a very interesting strategy for wanting to stop Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if you guys heard this over the weekend, but Roquan Smith was talking to the media and was asked, how do you slow down the Chiefs offense and Patrick Mahomes? His response was to take away the running game and force the Chiefs to be one-dimensional. You just told the media, and I understand that players are not supposed to reveal the full strategy to the media. You don't do that. But how do you tell the media that you want the Chiefs to be one-dimensional and you want them to pass it more? We want Patrick Mahomes to use his arm in this game. Really? Well, I hope that exact same thing happens. I mean, I want Isaiah Pacheco to do well, but just for the sake of, things that just come to fruition because you said it, I kind of want it to go down that way. Because wouldn't that be kind of an interesting way to react after the game? It's like, wait a minute, Roquan, this is what you wanted. And this is what's happening, but you guys didn't. That's what happened. You guys didn't win. That'll be very interesting for sure. Saying that you want to take away the run game and force the Chiefs to air it out, that's like saying you're going to combat global warming with ice cream. I mean, come on, seriously. Like, what are we doing here? Do you really expect people to believe that's the Baltimore strategy in this game? Come on. There's no way. There's no way he really said that. But he did. Quarterbacks Brandon Stevens and Marlon Humphrey. Average, above average cornerback. The same thing with Stevens. Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. And in fact, made his first All-Pro team last year. So coming off a very good season, playing safety for the Baltimore Ravens. He's going to be very important for their defense tomorrow to try to make sure Kansas City does not take the top off the defense. That is going to be Kyle Hamilton's job, to make sure that Xavier Worthy is not going to just be free and just torch all of the defensive backs. I think a big part of what Kansas City might do in Xavier Worthy's debut is use him as a decoy, and that'll free up guys like Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Justin Watson, and McCole Hardman as well. So I'm very curious to see, how do the Chiefs use Worthy? Are they going to try to, obviously they're going to have a lot of plays for him deep down the field, but how much are they going to throw it to him? Or is the goal for him to get free? I mean, of course, you always want to make sure you can hit the guy when he runs a route deep down the field. But if he's attracting all that attention, certainly not the worst thing in the world. I know statistically not the sexiest debut for Xavier Worthy, but that would still be a guy doing his job and allowing everyone else to get free. Because then you have a one-on-one opportunity for Travis Kelce. I think the more I think about it, I think Travis Kelce has a big game. I really do. Because you have reliable receivers here in Rice and Worthy. And again, as great as Baltimore's defense is, you have to respect what Patrick Mahomes does and what he is. And you have to respect who guys like Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are and what they're capable of. So that's going to free up Travis Kelce a lot in this game. You can't double team everyone if you're Baltimore. You just can't. Because if you want to double team Kelce, Rice, and Worthy. Okay, well, then you leave the door open for Justin Watson to have big catches, McCole Hardman, maybe Sky Moore. So I'm really curious to see ultimately how they want to play the Chiefs in this passing game here, how they want to defend all of that. Look, I think the Chiefs have the personnel to get it done, even without Hollywood Brown. The names I just mentioned, Worthy, Rice, Juju, Watson, Kelsey, Gray, and then in the backfield, Pacheco, P. Ryan. I haven't really mentioned his name. I've seen some of you guys mention it in the comments. Carson Steele obviously had a very good preseason, and can he carry that over to the regular season? That's going to be very important as well. So it's going to be very, I think they have the tools to get it done. And I really hope this team can stay healthy, because once Hollywood Brown comes back, and hopefully it's going to be for that week 2 Cincinnati game, it's just going to make this offense more fun to watch. I'm excited. I've got a smile on my face just even thinking about it. I still think they can do some good things even without him for this first game. Not ideal, but that's just what they have to work with for now. Special teams for the Ravens, Justin Tucker, the phenomenal kicker, and obviously a lot of eyes are going to be on him before the game for obvious reasons, because of what happened in last year's AFC Championship pregame, where he was trying to mess with Mahomes and Kelsey, and it didn't really work out too well for him. You know what's funny about all of that is when Justin Tucker was meeting with the media the next day, when the Ravens were doing their cleanup and their exit interviews, Justin Tucker was like, look, I'll answer these questions, but this is the only time I'll ever address these this topic. It's like, dude, you don't even want to talk about this. You can just tell, like, he absolutely had regret for what he did there. You can tell. I mean, especially when you lose, it's just even worse. And then Mahomes did an interview saying that the only 3 times it's ever happened to him in his career were the 3 times the Chiefs visited Baltimore in the Mahomes era. So that kind of, not a good PR look for the Ravens and Tucker. So I'm curious to see what that's look like in pregame. Jordan Stout, their 3rd-year punter. And then they have Deontay Hardy. He is the main return specialist for the Ravens. He was the NFL punt return leader in 2019 as a rookie. So he made the All-Pro team and the Pro Bowl as a rookie returner. So obviously did really well there then, but not the same since then. He spent some time with the Saints, then a little bit in Buffalo, and now he's found his way over to Baltimore. So that's Hardy's career so far in a nutshell. All right, so I just gave you the Ravens offense, defense, and special teams in a nutshell, and now I've got my score prediction. Meanwhile, I would love to read some of your guys' score predictions. I've got mine. Look, I think the Chiefs offense is going to look better. They will. One important thing to keep in mind with this Chiefs offense is they only scored 30-plus points twice last year. They did it in week 3 against the Chicago Bears. In fact, I think they scored 41 points in that game, the Taylor Swift debut, if you will. And then they visited the Las Vegas Raiders, and despite a 14-0 deficit to start the game, the Chiefs overcame that, and they outscored the Raiders 31-3 the rest of the game. They scored 31 points against the Raiders. What's my point here? My point is the Chiefs only scored 30-plus points twice all of last season against the Bears and the Raiders. Not really the ideal resume there. But again, the Chiefs had some issues last year, and I think they're going to have that fixed. There is no question in my mind this coaching staff has addressed this ad nauseum with the offense, because they know how much that hurt them. And not a lot of teams win a Super Bowl doing that. I don't think it happens 2 years in a row where you have so many drops and again win the Super Bowl. You're not going to three-peat by doing that. You will three-peat by nullifying and limiting those drops. And I think the Chiefs will have that going into this game and this season. Listen, I think it's going to be close, but I can see the Chiefs pulling away in the second half and really closing this game out in the fourth quarter. I'm going 34-17 Kansas City. That is my score. Listen, I think Baltimore, sure, they can do some things on offense, but this Chiefs defense is too much for Lamar Jackson to handle. And Lamar Jackson had a very difficult time against Spags' defense. The one time where Lamar Jackson and the Ravens beat the Chiefs, what happened? You just took advantage of Dan Sorensen, his lack of coverage and tackling. And then, at the end of the game, when Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbled, when the Chiefs were on their way to forming a game-winning drive, trying to set up a field goal there, unfortunately, it was taken away with that fumble there. So I do think this Chiefs team has what it takes to limit Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense. And I think the Chiefs offense might start slow to get things going, but they'll get it together because Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, they're the best when it comes to making halftime adjustments. And there will certainly be some adjustments to make. Oh, by the way, one other note I got to make here, because with Taylor needing to improve and Suamata Ia as a rookie, I'm wondering if we see a lot of tight ends involved to help the offensive tackles in this game. You went and got Peyton Hendershot from the Dallas Cowboys, so that might be a key guy who gets involved on the pass blocking there. Maybe a guy like P. Ryan, who's physically bigger than Jerick McKinnon, he gets involved on the pass blocking there. I'm very curious to see what that's going to look like. But I'm excited. I'm going 34-17. Kansas City wins this football game. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I am excited. So 34-17 is my score here. Let me read some scores right here from you guys. Let's start with Brennan. He says, I got KC 38-24. Jacob says 35-27 Kansas City. Gwen says 31-27 KC. Blake says 42-20 Chiefs. Robert says 27-21 Chiefs. Steven says 31-27, a much closer prediction than the others I've seen so far. Another close one from Rochelle, 31-28, probably the closest so far. Let's see. Doug said 31-23. Kathy says 32-28. Okay. A lot of people picking the Chiefs to score in the 30s. Okay, I like that. I thought it was going to be the only one. So a lot of people feel like this Chiefs team is going to score in the 30s. Keep one thing in mind. When you're watching with your buddies and you want to, do some fun facts and trivia with your friends, let them know that if the Chiefs do surpass the 30-point mark, they only did it twice last year. So for them to start off the year doing that, that's huge. Daniel says 34-31. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people have the Chiefs scoring in the 30s. Okay. All right. Well, we are less than 48 hours away from kickoff. Hey, quick reminder. We are going to be doing a pregame live chat 2 hours before kickoff. So at 5 o'clock Central Time, Thursday night, we will be doing a pregame live chat. Then at halftime, we'll be doing a quick halftime live stream recapping the first half. And then after the game, even though it's going to be late, I'll still be around, and I know a lot of you guys will as well, regardless of the outcome, win or lose. I'm expecting the Chiefs to win, though. We will be doing the Chiefs Zone podcast live after the game. We'll be taking your phone calls after the game during the live stream. So please tune in after the game. Please feel free to call in. Don't be shy. Just click the link, turn on your audio and video, whether it's on your computer, your phone, whatever it is, your tablet. Just make sure you turn all of that on, and we will chat it up after the game. So definitely want to interact with you guys afterwards when the Chiefs and Ravens game goes final. Real quickly, one last favor from you guys. I know I keep mentioning this, but would greatly appreciate it as we try to utilize the YouTube channel more. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I see the numbers on that going up. We've been doing a lot of videos on there lately, and we're continuing to do more videos. We're going to do a lot of videos on there as the season goes on. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Would greatly appreciate that. Definitely subscribe and follow along on YouTube as well. It's easier to watch and listen to the podcast through YouTube than it is on Facebook. A majority of the listeners are on Facebook. Hey, however you guys want to take it is fine. But it would certainly mean a lot if we could get the numbers up on the YouTube channel. I had it last year, but I was too lazy to do anything with it during last season. But this season, this off season, we've already got it going. So we definitely have some people who are subscribed, commenting, all that good stuff. So please make sure you are on the YouTube and share the links on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, however you guys are following me, because that always helps the algorithm and definitely helps get the word out about the Chiefs Zone podcast as we start the 2024 season. Hey, you guys have been absolutely awesome. We had 10,000 new followers on Facebook last offseason. This offseason, we have 11,000 new Facebook followers. So, I mean, the followers just keep growing more and more. We just surpassed 97,000 over the weekend. So we are inching closer and closer to 100,000 followers on Facebook, which is awesome. And I owe it to you guys. So thank you guys so much. Let's carry that over to the YouTube channel as well. Get the numbers on that as well. I appreciate all of you guys spreading the word, all the love. Reminder, pregame live chat, 5 o'clock before the game. I'll talk to you then. Enjoy. Take care. Happy Red Wednesday tomorrow.